Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. And Joyce, don't look up. We're going to talk about Don't Look Up. Does that work at all?
Or should we look up? Is it just look up or don't look? Which side are you on?
Well, I'm obviously on Just Look Up based on the movie.
Obviously, yeah. The right side of history.
Right. Don't Look Up is like, I don't know. That's too MAGA, I think. Don't Look Up. So, we saw Don't Look Up last night, Joyce, at the Paris Theater. A guild screening, it seemed. Very, very, very packed house. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of concerns about occupancy, but what you think?
Or just like eating in general. Yeah, there was a lot of popcorn there.
Heavy on
reaction wise, I thought it went over like really well. Like it was kind of like the Ricardo's screening for me last week, which was also a guild screening. I mean, like I feel like these type of movies like really play well to like the industry, and it's kind of it's really hard to gauge how well it might play to like the general public, but it went over well with them. Like there were again a few times when like the laughs were so loud that I couldn't hear the next line.
I noticed that too. There were a couple of times where I was like, oh, like Jonah Hill said something and like it got a big laugh. Don't Look Up is Adam McKay's new movie. Let's contextualize this, Joyce, for whoever is watching this who has not heard of it. It's coming to Netflix.
And it's about a comet approaching our planet Earth, discovered by astronomers Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. J-Law is the one who actually discovers it, but she's his PhD student candidate. And then they try to tell the world that we're all going to die in 6 months, and no one believes them. As Adam has said numerous times, like he wrote this like pre-COVID, and it's mostly a metaphor for climate change, one of Leo's passions. And they couldn't shoot during COVID. And then, it became like also a metaphor for COVID and like COVID deniers and everything. So it's not very subtle, but it's a pretty scathing satire.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta be honest, not that I was dreading it, but I was like, do we need another? I was like, this is just maybe too close to home, right? Because it's like this has been like 2 years of our news coverage and just 4 or 5 years of political nonsense. And but I was really impressed with the movie. It's like it's very funny and it's very dark. I was left shook, as the kids say, Joyce. I was shaken up by the ending.
The ending is pretty powerful, I would say.
Yeah. It was surprisingly powerful. It reminded me a lot of I like Adam McKay's movies, obviously, like this era of Adam McKay, like we'll separate off like the Step Brothers, Anchorman, the hilarious comedies that he was known for the like more serious filmmaker stuff that he's been doing lately. And this reminded me of remember at the end of The Big Short when like they have like the postscript and it's like Michael Burry is the Christian Bale character, and he was the one who was like super on top of the financial collapse and like kind of basically predicted that it was going to happen, and nobody really believed him, and he was right. And then at the end, they're like, in one of the postscripts, I'll butcher what it actually is. I meant to look it up, so I apologize. But it was like his next big thing was the scarcity of water, and that was like what he was most concerned about. So like that's like a chilling ending of that movie. Just like, oh, and P.S. this guy who was dead on about the financial crisis is also expecting us to become Mad Max Fury Road in like 20 years. And that like was like this movie, but like for a long time, for like very long running time. And so like you get that dread throughout, and it's like really good. And I was just like, super impressed with the whole thing. I think it's got a lot of potential. Like you said, the audience really loved it. I'll be curious to see, obviously it's on Netflix. It's December 24th. It's a small theatrical run before that. So they don't report box office. So it's like kind of meaningless, but I was like, it is like a good audience movie because people were very interested. And there's not just a lot of laughs, which we could talk about, but there's a couple of like big speech moments that I think actually one of them got applause, right? Like Leo has this big moment.
Yeah, which everyone has described as his Peter Finch network moment. And because he's like literally on the air.
I have to say, I'm sure that Adam McKay, like, I wish we could not describe movies with other. I know it's such easy shorthand, but I'm like seeing like people be like, hey, it's like Doctor, like tweeting that it's like Doctor Strangelove or Network.
I mean,
like,
it's definitely his Oscar clip.
It's definitely his Oscar clip, but I was also like, we just find better references. Maybe it's just this instead of like, we don't need to. It's like, it's not like it's Doctor Strangelove, I guess, because it's a satire, but it's also like it's not totally like it. I don't know. I was like, just
no,
like,
it's just it also like in this day and age, people love like not to like derail this conversation, but it's just like TV shows. There's like 7,000 TV shows, so it's like if you like this show, then watch this show.
Right.
You know?
It does feel like SEO.
Yeah, SEO friendly.
Yeah, SEO friendly tweet reactions. Yeah, so like all-star cast, like we said, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence are leads. Meryl Streep actually in a lot more than I expected. She plays the president, who Adam McKay has described as like an amalgam of every president since Reagan, and he considers them all pretty terrible in different ways, seemingly. And she's got like every like, you know, little subtle like feels of all of them, from Trump to Obama, because she smokes. That I thought was like a funny dig at Obama, to like, you know, Bush and Clinton. There's a picture of Meryl Streep hugging Clinton on the desk that I was actually like, is this a real photo of Meryl Streep hugging Clinton, or is it like a Photoshop? Could be either. It looked pretty good, I gotta say.
There are a lot of photos with her and other celebrities.
Yeah. Jonah Hill is her chief of staff, and her son, who's in full Don Jr. mode, I would say, / like
it's like Don / like Jared.
Yeah, and he's it's definitely like the funniest Jonah Hill has been in a long time. I think I would say anecdotally he got like most of the laughs in our screening. Certainly, he's like a big
and a lot of like his like scenes in the trailers are not in the final cut.
Yeah, I was thinking about that early. That scene that we had talked about this, I think, when Netflix did their fan event, Tudum.
Oh yeah, Tudum in September. Yeah,
and they released the clip, and everybody was like, like. Not
and again, as I said back then, like they like just had Adam rush like this like 90-second thing for the event, and it's like raw footage and not the final score from Nicholas Patel.
And so you were absolutely right, dead on right, because like the scene plays much better in the movie, and the score is awesome. The Nicholas Patel score, very into that. Who else? Rob Morgan has a pretty sizable role. He plays like a NASA scientist / doctor. Cate Blanchett is a Mika Brzezinski type news anchor / who has a show with Tyler Perry. Melanie Linsky plays Leonardo DiCaprio's wife, and he has it was actually did you like him seeing him with like grown sons? I found like not touching, but just like that's the first time I think he's ever been a parent of like
adults,
like adults, but it's like believable that he could be a parent of like a 20-year-old guy.
Yeah, because like, he just turned 47.
Correct.
2 weeks ago.
So it's like, but it's weird because I still think of like Leo as like not old. So it's like, but it's like believable because he's like, you know, obviously an adult. I just thought that was interesting. I definitely think anytime he's had kids, it's always been like Shutter Island style where they're like young kids or whatever. And then I was like excited that like Melanie was his wife, because I was like, I hope they just talk about Kate Winslet. That'd be great. I hope they did too. That'd be so good. And then Timothée Chalamet comes in about maybe like the third act, I guess, and he plays.
It was like definitely the third act.
Like, he plays like a religious teenager, I would say. That would be his character type. He's a skateboarder. Do they skateboard, or am I just imagining that? He looks like he would.
It was a skateboard.
They have a skateboard. He holds up a skateboard. Yeah, the movie is like really. We talked about this after. It doesn't. It moves really quick. You know, very funny.
It's a little over 2 hours. Well, there's a mid-credit scene. It's just like Marvel, mid-credits and post-credits.
Yeah, you got to stick around
through both. And it was like a little over 2 hours, and it was fine. I did not feel it, I guess I would say.
Same.
And I felt House of Gucci.
Same. I felt House of Gucci, and even like a movie like Licorice Pizza, which I loved. I was definitely like, this is long, I guess. And like, this did not feel long at all. So I was like, so as a movie, not a review, good movie though. It's solid, solid across the board. And then from an Oscar standpoint, I don't know. I came home and I was like, I'm bullish on this movie. I've had it in Best Picture as like a, kind of like a placeholder spot. I moved it up actually. I think it could do really well. Feels like it could get like a SAG Ensemble nomination for the cast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I moved Adam into Best Director. I think that it's, even though Best Director is packed and it's incredibly crowded, I think he could get one of the 5 spots. I think that the movie's message and the way he handles it, I think it's much more, it's funny when Vice, I also like Vice, so I'm like in on Adam McKay. So this is all like clouded judgment bias, whatever. But I remember Vice, one of the things I liked about it is that it felt completely reckless in that like, just he threw everything at the screen. It felt like no one was telling him no at any point in Vice, and it worked for me.
Full number, and it wasn't because Paul Thomas Anderson told him not to.
Right. But I was like, I don't know. This one, I was worried that this was going to be a little out there because Netflix is like, maybe famously not very note heavy, right? Like they're not going to like tell, they're not going to tell Martin Scorsese not to do something, or David Fincher, and Adam McKay is like one of those filmmakers who maybe they're not going to give notes to. But I was like, it actually felt like really, I don't know, disciplined in a way that Vice didn't. And I was like really impressed with all of that. I think he held together. The tones are like all over the place, but in a good way. Yeah, I was like impressed. I put him in as well. And then I think you had said you have Leo in forever, right? You're like,
I've always had Leo in, and you made me defend him like 2 weeks ago in our call.
And you were right, as usual.
Look, like I just like I just won't doubt Leo. Like, and I feel like since he won, like he's entered this phase where like if he is in like a big contender, like he will like probably get in. Like I said, like remember when people were like, oh, he might get snubbed for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I was like, no, he's fine. He's not winning, but like he's getting in. Like,
yeah,
like because like just because he lost the Globe to like Taron Egerton, like no, like he's fine. And this I just felt like I also always had Don't Look Up in Picture just because of the response to Vice, which got 8 nominations.
right.
And that was a lot. Like, I think this will be less polarizing than Vice was, like for all the reasons you said. So I feel like this could do as well, if not better than Vice. I don't know if it can get 9, maybe. Like it would have to go really big, but I could see it getting like 8. Like it could get visual effects. Like,
so I have it in for visual effects. We were talking about this on text. The visual effects are better than some of the Marvel movies we saw this year.
Yeah, like recent ones.
Yes, really impressive. Really impressive.
Not like Iron Man from like 13 years ago.
No, like recent Marvel movies. It's actually better looking than those, and and totally unexpected that it would have like solid visual effects. But it's pretty cool. Like the visual effects are good.
So I think it's in picture. I have like Leo in still, and I haven't put Adam in, but I can see him getting in definitely. I mean, he got in the last 2 times. Yeah, and that branch, I guess, like it's with like the increasing like diversification of the membership, like they're skewing a lot more like auteurish, and he's not like your typical auteur from just like his background and everything, but like all of his stuff is wholly his and original, and I think they do respect that on some level. So yeah. I might put, I don't know who I would bump out though. Who did you
That was the problem. I bumped out. So I've had briefly to detour to Best Director. I have Jane Campion, Kenneth Branagh, Denis Villeneuve, and Paul Thomas Anderson. And then my 5th slot, I had Ronaldo Marcus Green as like a Hail Mary, because I think that would be great. And we'll talk about King Richard in a little bit, but I moved him out and put Adam McKay in. I think like for the odds, it's like the chalk in the combined odds would be Jane, Kenneth Branagh, Denis Villeneuve, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Guillermo del Toro is like hanging strong there for Nightmare Alley, which no one has really seen yet. And then Joel Cohen is 6th and McKay is 7th. So it's not a real long shot by any mean. And I think the more people see this, the higher up he'll go. I think he'll actually end up, I think he can make it. That was my brief detour, at least.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, Joyce. Also, I have a picture director. I have Leo. And I put Jonah Hill in. I know Best Supporting Actor is absolutely chaotic. It is.
Well, that's also why he can get in.
it's so crowded. I actually bumped out Kieran Hines. I apologize again to Donald Clark, because I'm sure I said that wrong. But I'm trying. I bumped him out for Belfast. I know that seems weird because
Wait, so do you have any Belfast guy, or like do you have
I have
Jamie?
Jamie in. I'm Jamie.
Okay.
My reasoning was Jamie is just everywhere. There was a New York Times profile on him either earlier this week or I guess last week, and I just feel like
Oh, like how he wants to be in Marvel because he
yeah, and I just think he's like
Superman.
super like he's so likable, and I just feel like that's gonna.
How
really
many
help.
times do you think he's performed Everlasting Love?
I mean, at least like 2 or 3 so far. Maybe they'll have him perform it on the actual Oscars.
Open the show, just like Queen. Open the
Totally.
show.
So anyway, I have Jonah Hill in for Don't Look Up. I was like, he's so funny in it, and he gets all the big laughs. And I think like the headlines out of the movie when you see it, and even at the screening, there was a post Q&A with Adam and his producer, Kevin Mesnick, I believe is his name, right? Or we could Google it.
Kevin Messick, also a producer on Succession.
So yeah, like the top lines I think are like Leo and Jen, but then like even Jonah, honestly, like number 3 there, even ahead of Meryl, I think, for laughs particularly, and also just like, man, he's so funny in it. It's like it would be like, it kind of reminds me a little of Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza. There's like no actual character arc, but it's just like you watch the movie and you're like, this guy is just on another, like he's just on another level, kind of like.
I mean, I could see him getting in the same way he did for Wolf of Wall Street, which is like with no precursors, because like, like not getting anywhere. But like if people in the Academy, like the branch, just like respond to him, and because he's got nominations both ways, like So
I was also like he's in every scene he's in is with like Meryl and Leo basically, like, and also Rylance, who's quite good in it as well, and I could see getting in, but I was just like, he's like it's not like he's blowing them off the screen, but he's like dominating these scenes, and like I just was like, he's opposite Meryl Streep and he's like killing. So I was like, I just think that'll help him get in. I don't know.
So did you add like either Meryl or Cate in supporting actress?
I did not. I could see Meryl, I don't think you could count out because she's Meryl, and I'm like, once she got in for like Into the Woods, a movie I enjoy, but the fact that she got in for that, I was just like, she could literally get in for anything. So I think it's a definite possibility that she could get in. And she's basically, while it's an amalgam of all the presidents, I think the top line is like she's playing Lady Trump, basically. I mean, kind of like, I think that'll be like a takeaway at least certain people will come out away with. So I could see her getting in, but I don't know. I thought Cate was really fun and funny, but I don't think she'll get in. I think if she gets in, she'll get in for Nightmare Alley.
Yeah.
So I put Jonah in. I have it in for visual effects and original screenplay. And I have it in for film editing because I think there's going to be a good narrative around Hank Corwin, who is the
editor. Like he was nominated last time.
And he's never won. And I honestly could see it winning because, again, like I kind of felt like it was way more disciplined than Vice and Big Short. And it felt like he had a strong hand in like what the movie ends up being. And Adam said that yesterday at the Guild screening.
Yeah. I mean, like it's, sometimes they do, as we know from 3 years ago, they were like the most editing. So it does have a lot of cuts, but not in like a bad way. And it's just like, there's a lot of, like how Adam McKay movies are, like this just a lot of like quick cutaways and then just some like montages. And so I think like they're like nicely put together, especially like towards the end.
Yeah. So I could see, I have it in for editing and I could see him winning. And then I'm like, I don't know. I think it's a strong, I don't think it'll win Best Picture. Like, I don't think you could say any, like, I don't know if we crack into that. Like last week we were talking, it seems like Power of the Dog, Belfast, and King Richard are like, remain like the 3 current best possibilities. And like we said, I think Power of the Dog is like seemingly like a strong consensus pick, but I think it could, I don't know, I could see it doing really well and like being a strong contender for Best Picture. I don't think it'll be as polarizing, like you said, as Vice. And I don't know, I could see it hanging in, and the acting and the cast are going to be like a big draw.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even talked about J-Law. I don't have her getting in. I mean, we talked about this last night too. Like, I think like she was really funny. She has like a great like running gag in the movie. But I felt like she didn't, like her character didn't have as much of like an arc as like Leo's did. And that category, like best actress, is stacked as well. So I don't know.
I was trying to think of a way to get her in, because I've been
Yeah.
saying, actually, when I came home last night to Case, my wife, I was like, it's just so nice. Like, I kind of forgot how much I like her as an actor, because she just
Yeah, like she just has like such like natural like charisma on screen.
and it's like she hasn't really done obviously that much lately. And like, I can't remember what was the last really good thing she's done is like, I'd have to actually look it up. Maybe like Mother, honestly, I really enjoyed, and that was
I mean, that was
ago.
like you either like really liked it or you like really didn't.
So I'm like, she hasn't done something in a while, and she's like talked about, like, she was on the cover of Vanity Fair for the, I guess, December they're up to probably for their issues, and she was basically saying how she like stepped away because she was like, she's talking about this, like how everybody was sick of her and blah blah blah, and she got married and she's pregnant and all these different things, and she's like basically lived her life. But man, she's so good on screen, just totally charismatic.
And this was written for her.
Yeah. And so it's like, she's awesome in it. I just was like, I can't, as I tried last night, I was like pulling out the abacus, trying to figure out how to get her in there. And it's just too crowded. I don't know. I just think that category is absolutely.
I mean, you added someone else.
I've got Nicole winning still. We talked about this last week, Kristen Stewart and Lady Gaga. Those three I have locked in. And then 4 and 5, I think I could come up with any number of possibilities. At the moment, I have Alana Haim, which you had talked about as being like a real possibility last week. And I kind of poo-pooed it. And then I was like, Joyce is right, as usual. And I put her in. And then I have Jennifer Hudson for Respect getting back in. I have had her in and moved her out. Now I have her back in. She was on the THR drama actress roundtable.
You have such recency bias.
Super recency bias that I was like, I read this thing and I was like, putting her back in. So, I don't know. So I could see Jennifer Lawrence getting in. I think it depends on if it's like, I guess if the movie is like massive, I could see her getting in. She's, like I said, she's great. She's absolutely great in it. I love her. Her chemistry with Leo is awesome. I think they work really well together. And comedically, I think they work really well together because they're not trying to be funny. Like that was another problem with, again, not to go back, I don't want to relitigate this September clip, but it felt like in that clip, everyone was trying to be funny. And in the movie, when you watch it, that's actually not the case. They're all just playing it like pretty straight and getting the laughs, I feel like. So
yeah, because like they're actually the straight characters, the two of them, because like they're trying to be serious about this and get the news out, and like everyone needs to take this seriously, and no one is taking it seriously. And like I've said before, I love comedic Leo. Like he needs to do more comedies, and he's basically like a dweeb here.
Yeah.
Like he's so good at playing one.
There was one scene that I was still laughing about this morning. I won't spoil it, but Ariana Grande is in it as well, playing not herself, but like herself, basically. Like she's a generic pop star in the movie. So kind of like a little more satirical than she is in real life. And she's obviously in on the joke because she's in the movie. And there's a scene where she's waiting to go on to the MSNBC style morning show that
Daily Rip
that Cate and Tyler Perry host, and Leo and has an interaction with her that I was like still guffawing over. I think it's so funny because I think it's like such like a dad exchange. Like it really is. Like, I mean, like we've like Leo obviously one of the biggest stars in the world and stuff. And he doesn't, it's not like he doesn't play his age, but I think this is the first movie where I've seen that it's like he is absolutely a 47 or 48-year-old man. And instead of like, this guy could believably be 35 or whatever, and we'll pair him with like a younger love interest and he won't have kids or he'll have young kids. And here it's just like, he's a full dad. It's just like, he's in full
he's
dad
like,
mode.
like there's like a little like snippet of that scene in the trailer. And like, there's like a little bit more to it. And it's like, it's not even dialogue heavy, but it's just like the reactions between both of them. It's really good.
Yeah. It's super funny. I don't know. I was very, very into it. I don't know. And then we didn't even talk about Nicholas Patel. Do you want to do like a brief?
I mean, is he going to win for this? Finally.
So we don't know, like score, obviously, like we can't, like, there's no short list.
We need the short list.
So I don't know. I kind of think yes. I could see.
There's a lot of good scores this year.
It's really, really good year for scores. I think we could say that every year, but I mean, like, and again, shortlist.
Yeah, you have like
accepted.
Hans Zimmer.
It's like you have Hans Zimmer for Dune.
Multiple Johnny Greenwood.
Multiple Johnny Greenwoods. I would probably say, I honestly thought personally that the Spencer one was better than the Power of the Dog one, but they're both awesome. And also Power of the Dog obviously is like a best picture frontrunner. So probably like the one that people will kind of gravitate towards. Being Ricardo's was great score. French Dispatch is a great score. King Richard is a fun, like, very inspirational down the middle score. Nicholas Britell has, I was talking about this yesterday, Cruella, amazing score, I think, for him. So it's like he actually has two.
He's going to win for Cruella, obviously.
I mean, I would not be against that. Again, I think the Cruella score is so good, but I'm like, this is a really tough year. Coda has a great score. We don't even know yet, like Nightmare Alley, what that'll be like. But so there's a lot, but I could really see him winning for this.
He already won, what was that, like the Hollywood Music Award?
Yeah. And it just feels like this is like, he, like we were saying, he lost, Moonlight lost to La La Land, and then he lost to Black Panther for Beale Street, which I think maybe we would have done over. And that same year he had Vice, which I'd actually argue is maybe even as good as the Beale Street one and wasn't even nominated. I don't know. I feel like it's maybe like this is the time for Nicholas Britell. People still, this
it's a good score, and it's like the final cue is really great, and it's like obviously it has a slightly like comedic tone to it just because of the vibe of the movie, but it fits like every moment, I feel like. And he also could get 2 nominations because he co-wrote the song in the movie Just Look Up.
Yes,
so he could go from 0 to 2 is all I'm saying.
He could definitely, and that means best original song. Now we've got Beyonce for Be Alive, a potential Jay-Z nomination, Ariana Grande, so
and
who else?
Kid Cudi.
And Kid Cudi for this, and then who else? Isn't there another one? I feel like
Billie Eilish for like a 2-year-old song.
Billie Eilish for the Bond song. Yeah, just an absolute wild list.
It could be an actual like star-packed song lineup, which you can't say every year.
I guess you would have the national in there too for like the Cyrano, right? Like this is like legitimate like major artists all in contention this year. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else on Don't Look Up before we look down and move on to King Richard? I tried another pun there. I don't think it worked.
Yeah, that wasn't a good one.
You failed.
You should have just tried for like a tennis pun. Like,
I know. I don't know the tennis puns.
They're so easy. Like it's just a love match. Well, love means nothing in tennis.
Right.
And then there's ace, winner, a serve.
So like I think at the very least, I would say Don't Look Up held serve, let's say, for now. I'll be curious to see like the reviews and as
what will break serve?
I don't know. I have no idea.
This is like the worst segue ever.
Really tough look.
So yes, I do have a lot of thoughts on King Richard, which I watched twice this weekend.
So I was going to rewatch it, and I didn't do it yet, but I plan on watching it either today or tomorrow. But it's on HBO Max, obviously. You can watch right now. It was in theaters. Did not do maybe as well as people expected, but at the same time, what do you expect?
I'm just like who? I mean, yes, you should care, but also like who cares? It's like
exactly.
There's a pandemic. And also, like, why are you trying to force people to go watch a movie in a theater when they could watch it from the comfort of their own home,
correct.
The safety of their own home?
And the other thing is that every one of these adult dramas basically has had the same result. So anyway, but Joyce, tell me, you are a tennis expert. You love tennis. You love the Williams sisters.
I do, and I'm actually wearing a U.S. Open shirt for this right now.
Nice.
So
this is perfect. Tell me all your thoughts on King Richard. I've been waiting to talk to you about this and like have you give me your take on it since September. So I'm so excited.
So I enjoyed it. And this is a pretty long movie. It's like 2.5, I would say, right? Or something.
Yeah, it's like 220.
Yeah. So, but I thought it went by, I wouldn't say quickly, but it flowed well. And like, I didn't really feel it either. And I watched it twice this weekend.
Nice.
And I I'm happy for like Serena and Venus and their older sister Isha are executive producers on this movie. And Isha was there like every day. Like she was like, you know, day to day, like EP there. And so I feel like they made the movie they wanted, and I'm happy for them. And this is a good like starter movie into for like their like Serena and Venus's careers if you just know them as these like tennis superstar siblings. You know, if you don't really know like their background. And I would say some of like the discourse over the weekend, I completely expected when this movie was announced that it was going to be called like King Richard about their dad, because I knew there were going to be people who are like, why is this about their dad and not about them? Like, even like I told you, like when I was at the US Open with my friend, like even she who like follows them, you know, and knows about Richard was like, why is this about him and not them? But I feel like it's impossible to tell their story without starting with him, because he was like the architect of their careers, which they very clearly and immediately established in their movies. It's not like maybe they would have become tennis players on their own, like picked up a racket at like 4 or 5, but he had this planned out before they were even born, because Oracene had like 3 older daughters before she and Richard met, and then they got married, and then he was like, I'm gonna like create tennis players, we need 2 more babies, and then they have Venus and Serena. And he did have like this like 85-page like game plan for their career, so like that's all true. So I don't think it's wrong to like have him be the focus of this movie, and they obviously love their dad and like owe their careers to their dad. So I think the movie worked on that level, and I thought the performances were great. Like the girls playing Venus and Serena were amazing. Like Demi Singleton looks like young Serena if you've seen like old footage of her. Sanaya Sini doesn't exactly look like Venus, but she just like dominated second half of the movie when it really became about like Venus's rise-esque. And then she has like, you know, her big matches at the end. And they both like learn, they've talked about this, like they both learned how to play like Venus and Serena. Like they really ushered in like power tennis in like the late 90s and like open stance and everything. But like just like the way like Venus has like amazing reach and like her net approaches, and like Sanaya like nailed all that. All the tennis scenes were great, which is very hard to capture in film. You know, like no shade to like Battle of the Sexes, but like the tennis scenes were like kind of lacking that. And like I love Wimbledon, the movie, and also the tournament, but the movie, like, you know, not the best tennis scenes in that movie. But like this, you know, like you said, like last week it was like shot by Robert Elswit, Oscar winner, and they felt like all the tennis scenes felt really like real. Like it's oftentimes you felt like you were actually watching like footage from like our highlights from a real match.
Absolutely. I thought that too, honestly. Like it definitely had like a little bit of where you're like, is this actually just like regular footage? It reminded me of that scene in Spencer where you just see her on the TV and she looks so much like Diana that you're just like, is that real? But anyway, go ahead. Keep going.
So I do have some notes.
Yes.
Maybe some like unforced errors that I actually wrote down.
That's a tennis. I get that reference. I understand that
reference. So I wanted more of like Ingenue Ellis as Oracene, their mom, who like she was like just as important as like Richard in their like development as tennis players. And like you got that like small montage of her like training Serena, and I felt like we needed like more of that. And then she, you know, she has like her big like kitchen scene as well, and she actually is still like part of like their entourage. Like she still goes to their matches and everything. Like Richard has stopped doing that. He also has like some health issues. But she's just like a firecracker. I love her. She's honestly like my favorite like Williams family member. Nice. My favorite like Oracene moment is like at the 2007 Australian Open, which Serena won when she was ranked like 81st. And like she was just like yelling from the stands like, get out of Melbourne. Which also like no coaching from the stands, but anyway. And it's like, what is she saying? Is she like telling her to get out of the city? And it's like, no, like Serena was too far back from the baseline. Like she was like 15 feet back, like standing on the Melbourne logo on the court. So she was telling her to get out of Melbourne and like move up and be more aggressive. But I like love that. Like, so she's great. So I'm more of her. And then there were some like differences from real life. So first of all, at the last event, the Bank of the West in Oakland, that in real life, that was an indoor event, but I feel like they made it outdoor because of COVID. So whatever, that's fine. So Venus's first match as a pro, then she won against Sean Stafford. The scoreline was 6-3, 6-4, but in the movie they had Venus go down 4-love, and I'm like, that's just kind of unnecessary. Like, why did you change that? You could just have her go down like 3-love.
Right.
And then, so then her next match was just like the climax of the movie. She plays Arantxa Sanchez Vicario, and I love the detail of like they had like Arantxa have her little like ball hang on the back, which was real. Like she actually, had that back then. So they kept saying that Arantxa was the number 1 player in the world. She was not. She was still 2 back then. I mean, she had like a banner year that year because she won 2 Grand Slams, but she didn't hit number 1 until February 95. And this was October, November 94.
Who was number 1?
Duffy.
Okay.
But she was the number 1 seed at that tournament, which is a different thing because Duffy didn't play. So that bothered me.
I can see that.
And then, they kept calling her Vicario. Like her last name is Sanchez Vicario because the Spanish like naming system is like your first name, whatever middle name, your father's last name, and your mother's last name. And most like people like publicly, they just use like their father's last name. Like Rafael Nadal, his real name is Rafael Nadal Pereira, but he goes by Rafael Nadal. So they kept calling her Vicario, and I'm like, her last name is Sanchez Vicario. Right. And then just from like a story standpoint, I was kind of surprised that they did not have any scenes of Venus and Serena playing each other, or even discuss that eventually when you go pro, you will have to play each other for these big titles, because that was always part of Richard's game plan. You're going to be 1 and 2, going to win all these Grand Slams. And they did, like that all came true. Like they were the first people to play each other in 4 consecutive Grand Slams, and it's not even discussed. And then like I guess like halfway through the movie, you have that scene when like they trade trophies because Venus is like, I'll give you gold and like I like silver anyway. That really happened because Venus beat her and they don't show that. And I'm just like, this is just like, I just felt like that was something they should have talked about. And then another, like I told you this yesterday, like another good opportunity for them to address that is like towards the end, when like Serena is just like staring at this like empty stadium and Richard comes up to her and it's like, you're just going to be number 1, but you're going to be the best player in the world. Like they could have talked about that then too. And like all of that is true. Like Richard has always said, even when they're starting out, that like Serena's better. And Oracene has said back then that Serena's better because she's meaner, because she has like more of a killer instinct.
Uh-huh.
So and it's also weird because like during the credits, they show montages of them for real, and it's like they're playing each other,
right?
And then there's a clip of like Justin Gimelstob like interviewing Venus about like your sisters playing each other, and I'm like, why didn't you do this in the movie? I don't know.
So I was saying that scene, and then maybe that we're setting up the Williams sisters cinematic universe, and then maybe in the sequel.
I mean, I would approve of that. Like,
and then they could definitely play again. Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely. I'll tell you what. They could definitely do a sequel or an HBO Max show or whatever the hell happens nowadays.
They have a lot of documentaries and whatnot and shows.
Because I'm like, Demi and Sanaya are awesome, like you said, they're really good, and you could definitely have them playing the Williams sisters, continue to play them. It's like, why not? I don't know, they're really good. So I'm in for a cinematic universe, and we could have them play each other.
Because then, because it ends. I actually like where it ended. And it's like, I also like that. I mean, obviously, it would have been ridiculous if they had her win that match, because she didn't win that match. Like she lost to Arantxa. So I like where it ended because it's still like they accomplished what they like set out to accomplish.
It's funny you mentioned that. While I was watching it, I was like, I know she doesn't win this. Just I don't even know tennis as well as you do, obviously. But I was like, I just know she didn't beat Arantxa Sanchez Vicario. That would have been like a major deal that I remember, because she was obviously like a top player, and like Venus was not, obviously an upstart underdog in that match. And I was like, man, they're really making it seem like she's going to win. And I don't remember that at all. There's no way she's going to win this. And then she doesn't. Like, no,
but like everything that happened in that match is real. Like the toilet break was real, which lasted for like 10 minutes. I also love that, like, this was like the focal match in this movie, when this year, like, especially at the US Open, like the big storyline was like the length of bathroom breaks because of like Stefano Tsitsipas.
Yeah. It reminded me, as a sports movie, I think it reminded me a lot of Moneyball. Because Moneyball, I
love Moneyball. Best movie of 2011.
I agree. Best movie of 2011 by far. It's definitely the best Brad Pitt performance.
And they also didn't win the climactic.
And they didn't win the climactic thing. And you're actually like, it's an interesting way. And I wouldn't be surprised if like Moneyball was a big influence on the way the movie was made, because it also looked, the way it's shot, I think it's like that kind of like Moneyball-ish style. Like we said, like Robert Elswit does a lot of like, it's just much more, it looks a lot different than you would expect like a bigger glossy sports movie to look, frankly, I think at times. And I just think they handled it really well, because like we said, like they don't win, if she doesn't win. So it's like, you're kind of on an anti-climax, but it actually ends up being like a climax because they do what they set out to do. Basically. It's really well done. I thought the end.
Yeah. And also I think it would have been hard to end with, Grand Slams are like what tennis players want to win, like it's not the Olympics. Like tennis was only added to the Olympics in 88.
Right.
So you won Grand Slams, and Serena won a Grand Slam before Venus, because Serena won the US Open in 99 and then Venus won in 2000. So, since this movie is much more about like Venus's development because she's older, I think it would have been hard to like get to when they were actually competing for Grand Slams. Because Venus also, her big breakthrough slam was the 97 US Open, but she didn't win that.
Right.
So, I think because the focus was so much on Venus, it would have been hard to end with her winning the 2000 US Open when like Serena won the year before already,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So
and she also won like Wimbledon that year too, like Venus in 2000. So yeah, like Serena won before she did.
So Joyce, did watching it change your opinion on its awards chances at all?
I didn't change anything. I still have it in Best Picture. I still have Will in first. I thought he didn't do anything like groundbreaking, and that's not a slight on him, but like he did what I expected. And also like that Richard Williams is a complicated person in real life. You could Google for more like backstory on him. Like he was like a very he was like a disruptor in tennis just because of what he did, like not having them play juniors. Also, when they talk about juniors in the movie, I feel like just because of what they show, it just makes it look like those like local tournaments when they really mean like the ITF juniors, like the junior slams. So, but like he set a blueprint for like future like tennis parents, because like Naomi Osaka's dad emulated him, and like Naomi didn't play juniors. So he's that, and he's they also hinted at him like being like just making up like these like white lies about like that like Rockefeller Center, like all that stuff like he said, but they don't really dig deeper into him. And also he has like his relationship with Oracene, like later on they eventually divorced, but there were some like domestic violence incidents with him. And then in Ingenue's big scene, she references like him like leaving his first family for her. So they don't really dig into that, which I think is expected with the girls being EPs on the movie. But I think like Will like did a good job, and it's definitely, it still reminds me of like kind of like a Sandra Bullock like Blindside win if he wins.
I would agree with that. I think it feels like, I just felt like the whole time it's just like a huge movie star performance. It's like he's a big movie star doing like a big movie star thing. It reminded me of Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire too, honestly. Like he's just like, it's just like this guy's good doing like a thing. I don't know. I thought he's like really good. I think you're right. It's not like, I think he has a couple of like really powerful scenes, and I like thinking back when I was talking about the movie this weekend and just like hearing you talk about it here, like his scenes with like Venus, like it's like towards the end when he explains like how he was like how he was abused and stuff as like a kid, and like like trying like explaining to her like how come he's like parented the way he has and stuff. That's like a really powerful moment, I think, and like definitely like tear up moment, I think, for a lot of people. So he has like a couple of really great scenes. He's super funny and charming at times. Obviously, he's Will Smith. I still think he's like the favorite to win as well. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think some people probably got discouraged because it didn't, light the box office on fire this weekend.
Though it's funny that that is like definitely, I feel like that too. It felt like there was like a lot of the coverage around it was like, well, it really didn't do well. Not like nothing, who knows if it flopped. I mean, obviously it cost more money than it made. It's like he's a movie star making like 20 million or whatever. But it made me laugh because I'm like, then who is going to be his like who's his prime contender? Benedict Cumberbatch on a Netflix movie that made 3 cents at the movie theaters. They don't even tell you how much it made, because they don't need to. Or like Denzel and Tragedy of Macbeth, which is also going to, you know what I mean? It's just is like, I don't think the box office should really mean that much, even though it probably.
Yeah, it's not like when Bohemian Rhapsody won made like $1 billion.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. So I still have him in. I think, like you said, I think Anjuna Ellis is great in the movie. And like her big scene is like enough to get her in. I still have her in pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I have her in, but again, like I wanted more of her. I don't know if she can win. I don't know. I still have Katrina in first. Like their roles are pretty similar in that honestly long-suffering wife trope.
Yeah. And they both have like these and it's funny because they're very similar and they actually both have these really strong, their strongest scenes are basically when they stand up for themselves in their conversations with their spouse, which is, I think, like really interesting. Like, it's nice. I guess it's like a little bit of a subversion of like the typical like supportive wife role on both of them.
Yeah. It's not like exact check mark. Like it's not like super tropey. It's like they like elevate the trope.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Like, what they do. So
and then,
I don't know.
And then I toyed with John Bernthal, my boy, John Bernthal, who I got to interview for this. He's a great interview, great guy. He's awesome in the movie. He plays Rick Macy. Massey or Macy, Joyce? Help me out.
Macy, yes.
Okay. I got one right. Rick Massey in the movie. He's really great. Really like he just kind of explodes into the movie, like all energy, short shorts, silly mustache, ridiculous accent. But I just think supporting actor is so packed, and unless King Richard is like an absolute juggernaut, I don't think he would get in, but it could be possible. I have him in like the second. I have him like the 5 to 10 range personally.
Yeah, he's really fun. And I actually enjoyed him and Tony Goldwyn a lot. Tony, who plays Paul Cohen, another one of their early coaches. But he exits in the first half, and then like John comes in.
Right.
And he's more of like the comic relief coach, but that was also like Rick's personality in real life anyway.
And he has a couple of good scenes. Again, like he also takes Richard to task in like a scene, like kind of like tries to get him to see from the girl's perspective. He obviously has like a great affection for the girls in the movie. I don't know, I could see him getting, the thing with John Bernthal is like he's been in about 3 billion projects and he works with everyone seemingly, so I could actually see him getting a SAG nomination. To be perfectly
it's all
honest.
those like Walking Dead fans.
Kind of, right? I mean, like he's worked with everybody. And this year he's also got like, he's in the Sopranos movie. He's also in Unforgivable with Sandra Bullock. He's got King Richard. He was in a small like indie that about a small engine repair, I think it's called, which is like a play that he like was also in. He's got a ton of things. I could see him getting in because I think actors really do like him and he's so likable. But I just don't know if he's got enough to get in. That's a very strong category, as we said. But I could see him getting
it's an unsettled category.
Yeah.
But I also like it's a true supporting role, which is like fine because like it's supporting category. But it also feels like it sounds so vague to say like he needs to like do more. But I think he needed, I don't know, like something like another like scene or two there.
It's kind of like what you said is actually like, you obviously can't combine them, but the fact is like that coach character is Tony Goldwyn and him split between the two. And if it was like one person playing that,
yeah,
it can't be, because
harder.
if it was one person, I think he'd have a much bigger shot because there'd just be more of him in the movie. But because it's obviously two different people, you can't do that. So yeah, I don't know. And then I like I said, I have had Ronaldo Marcus Green in, and I moved him out for Adam McKay. I think he does a great job with the movie. It's like really old school, like big studios, inspirational sports movie type thing. He's obviously like a younger director. I don't know. I could almost see him getting in, but I think it would be tough. I don't know. I just don't think.
I think it would be hard for him.
Yeah.
Again, I think like the box office discouraged people.
Yeah, that's so silly that it really did. But I hope it doesn't, because I hope like as like again, we're talking like months from now, will people even remember what it did? And I think anecdotally, at least, it seems like again, it's on HBO Max. People are going to watch it, right? Like, I mean, like I've probably said this a million times, and it's so stupid. But I'm like, my parents watched it. I'm like, they would have never watched this if it was just in the movies.
Oh,
they're not going to go.
Like, this is not a movie that like you're like, I need to like buy my tickets in advance.
Right. I mean, like if this was like 6 years ago or 5 years ago, or whenever The Blind Side came out, like, yes, it would have been like a massive Thanksgiving.
Like 2009.
Yeah. That's a long time ago. It's 11 years ago. Okay. If you're sure it's not 5 years ago, 12 years ago, you sure it's not 5?
Yeah.
No, if it was like that, if it was like 2009 and Will Smith is in like this movie and it's like marketed basically like The Blind Side, I think it's a lot better than The Blind Side, honestly. Like, it just is. And I think he's actually better than Sandra was in The Blind Side, though I think Sandra was actually pretty good in The Blind Side. Yeah, I don't know. I think this would have made like $200 million, but it's a different time and it's a different world.
I mean, I think that was probably also the expectation pre-COVID as well. So.
Yeah. So pre-COVID, it would have done really well. And I think it'll probably continue to do well on HBO Max. The audience scores are through the roof. Like, it's hard to imagine someone being like, you might quibble with it. You might think it's like corny or whatever, but I mean, no one is going to walk out of that movie and be like, that stunk. I don't think. I just think
and also just like tennis fans I know, and like tennis, like journalists, like they all approve of it as well.
Right.
Like everyone agrees that like this is, a good, decent movie. I think like the worst you could say about it is like, it's like a standard sports movie.
Yeah. That's really, I mean, like that is definitely like what it is. And I think that's
it's not a bad movie.
No. So I would love, if Ronaldo Marcus Green got nominated, I'd actually love it. I think he's like really talented. And this is like a great, he did Monsters and Men, I believe was his Sundance breakout. And he did Joe Bell with Mark Wahlberg. Remember Joe Bell? Barely came out.
I do remember Joe Bell.
And then he did this. And yeah, like I think his story's really, I listened to an interview he did with on the Big Picture podcast. Joyce, you ever listen to that? With Sean Fennessy. He did an interview with Ronaldo Marcus Green, and his like story is really compelling. He's a Mets fan, so we should all automatically like him.
Oh my God. And it's right across from Arthur Ashe Stadium.
And he was like he played baseball and like actually tried out, I think, for the Mets and didn't make it, and then became a filmmaker. So he's got like a sports background. And that was like one of his big selling points to Will when he met him for like this project. And like, I think Will got connected to him too, because Jada Pinkett Smith was on the Sundance jury when Monsters and Men was at Sundance. So that's like their like Venn diagram of connection.
So when is he making the Mets movie?
I don't know. If I get to talk to him, don't best believe I'm going to ask him about like, do a Mets movie, 86 Mets movie, 89, 88 Mets movie. I don't care. Do a Mets movie. It'll be great. Yeah, I would love to see him get in. I have it still. So I still have Best Picture for that. I still have in Best Original Screenplay. I think it's like a pretty solid, like 4 or 5 pick there. And then, I could see cinematography with Ellsworth, like because he's such a pro. The score I thought was really good. Chris Bowers did the music. It's very.
I could see editing for it. I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. It has like a lot of like 6-7 potential right there, and I don't know. I could still see it winning. Depends on how the rest of the year goes and what ends up breaking out. But I think like it is, of all the movies that we've talked about this season, it is absolutely the best crowd pleaser and like the one that makes you feel best so far. More so than Belfast. More so than Don't Look Up.
Yeah, like it's more of a crowd pleaser in like the traditional sense than Belfast is or has been like
Yes.
not, I wouldn't even say marketed, but just like that's just been like the narrative it's like
Yeah.
taken on. And I think again because of the box office, people are now like, is King Richard a crowd pleaser because it only made like like there's no crowds, like it only made 5 millions. But I think
But
like anyone who's watched it likes it.
Yeah, I think it's a likable movie. So maybe when we say crowd pleaser now, we mean something that people enjoy. And I think people would enjoy this movie and like turn it off and be like, that was a good movie. I'm glad I watched it. And I'm sure more people watch it over Thanksgiving with their family because I could see like, what else are you going to watch, basically? Joyce, so we have Best Actor. We have Will. We talked about Leo. And then you got to watch Tick, Tick, Boom, which I know
it was a big couple of days for me with like Best Actor contenders.
Big couple of days of release with Best Actor contenders. Actually, I was thinking about it. It's like you have Will out, Cumberbatch and Power of the Dog is in theaters right now. It comes to Netflix next week. Garfield and Tick, Tick, Boom. And then Joaquin Phoenix and Come On, Come On was actually released in limited release. We barely talked about it, but like he's also
and it's like doing well in limited release too.
Yeah, I think it had like a $26,000.
That's the thing; they need to release everything limited, like in special.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah. So Tick, Tick, Boom. I love the movie. I love Andrew Garfield in it. I got him in. I
think I'll put him in right now. I'll do another live update.
Yes.
I'll put him in right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, he was really good, and I mean, I'm not a big like musical theater person. Like I know like this existed, like Tick Tick Boom, the musical existed, but like I never like heard any songs or anything. Right. So I liked it. It was entertaining, and I think it's another crowd pleaser, even though we don't know how big the crowd is. But again, it feels like anecdotally, like most people who've seen it enjoy it and really like Andrew.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I totally agree. I'll tell you this. I saw it. I saw it at a screen. I saw it at the Paris Theater. We saw Don't Look Up earlier. And then my wife and I, we watched it Friday night and Saturday night. Just put it
you
back.
You watched it twice?
So I've seen it 3 times in like a week. I just really love it. It's incredibly watchable. I think it's so watchable. And I was really impressed. Just that the movie itself, I think, is actually really good. And Lin-Manuel Miranda's direction as a first-time director, I was kind of like, pretty impressed with. It's not like he definitely is trying different things, and I feel like not only do you get the sense that it's a very much a Broadway friendly movie where it's like his care for Broadway is apparent throughout, and like his interest in the history of Broadway. Like there's a million cameos of like super famous Broadway performers. I didn't even recognize half of them. I had to like Google it and like look for the credits at the end and see, read who are those people, articles, SEO articles, and then yeah, I just think Andrew's awesome in it. He's so good. He really, really goes for it. It's a big performance. His singing is great. I just love his voice. I think he's got a great voice. I think he
already has a Tony for a play, so he needs a Tony for a musical.
He really should. I think the narrative that he's been out there, and like this is like for a while. There were articles about like the way he processed his grief of his mother dying with this movie when Tammy Faye came out, and he's been talking about that on the late night circuit. I think he's a very likable performer. People do like him. The movie is good. He's great in it. I just think he's like, I would be surprised if he doesn't get nominated at this point. I know that seems so silly, but I'm like, I really think he's got it. And I think the character you're rooting for, even though it's a lot of energy and like big theater kid energy, and like Jonathan Larson comes off sometimes
like peak theater kid energy.
It's really grating at times, but like not in a, like he just is like, that's the character, and he's like a lot, and he's very determined. But I think his struggle to be a creative artist will really, I think a lot of actors will respond to that, and just people in general who are in the creative community will like look at that role and that performance and like see something very familiar to themselves. And like, yeah, I think it's like, he's like great. And there's like a ton of Oscars. I don't know. I just think he's in. I would be surprised if he doesn't get in.
I think he can get in from Passion, which we've seen is like key here and in this era particularly. So I don't really see a Best Picture nomination for this movie, which I think is what hurts him the most, because there is like such a link between those two categories. So he might be like the one or maybe two, I don't know, depending on who makes it, like nominee who is not from a Best Picture nominee in the category.
Yeah. I don't have it in for Best Picture either.
Yeah.
But I could, it seems like it would be a long shot, but with 10, who knows? I mean, I guess I could make the argument that it would be like 9 or 10. It just seems like a little bit of
it's also like if you like think about it, like everyone who is like raving about him, like no one is like the film needs a Best Picture nomination. Everyone is like, he needs a Best Actor nomination.
That's what it feels like too. Not to say, I think, I could see it being like on the outside of like Best Picture and Best Editing, honestly, and Best Sound, like all of those.
I actually put it in sound before I even watched it, just because it was like a musical.
Yeah. I think I could still see it getting in there. So I don't think he'd be like a lone nominee. I think it has like some potential elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be a lone nominee. I just don't think he'd be from a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah. So yeah, I moved him in. I'm like very enjoyable. I'm like excited about that performance. And like you said, I think the passion is for him is like through the roof. He's also like a guy people are rooting for, it seems like, just in general. So yeah, I got him in.
Yeah, like it's funny because like I don't think anyone was really kind of like predicting him for like Tammy Faye in supporting.
No.
So it's also funny because it's like it like we knew this movie was coming out, because like we know, but I don't really think like maybe the general public knows. Like I feel like the general public or like people who like follow like movies or like entertainment like know about like Don't Look Up is coming out.
Yeah,
but I don't think like Tick Tick Boom had the same type of like lead up promo to it.
No, I don't believe it did.
And then it was just like, oh, here's the premiere, and then like it's on Netflix on Friday.
Right. Which ended up maybe like playing. I mean, maybe that's like actually like, I don't know, maybe that's like a great strategy. It was in the top 10 on Netflix. I saw it. I think it was like 7 the last time I checked. So like a lot of people are checking it out. And like we said, I think that Netflix bump will help like a contender, because it's just as like, of course, it's like on, it's in your face if you use Netflix, and it's like there's 200 million people using Netflix. So I don't know.
What if he's helped by next month, probably likely most definitely being in Spider-Man No Way Home?
So I was wondering about that actually, and I'm like,
opposite Benedict Cumberbatch.
So it probably would help, but also like then he's been lying about it for like months.
I mean, they've all been lying about it. So
I mean, yeah. So
they edited him and Toby out of the trailer.
Everything helps, I think. I don't know. So yeah, Joyce, like we should wrap up because we've gone very long here on things we really enjoyed.
Thank you during this week for anyone who actually survived however long we've been doing this. Yes,
we're thankful. It's Thanksgiving week. We're thankful for you watching. Joyce, do you want to do one like a minute on Succession? This week's episode was dark.
It was so dark, but I loved it. And Matthew McFadden. So I just remember like I was like telling people after I watched the screeners, because they were like, how are they? I was like, they're great. And like Tom has like an amazing arc that starts in episode 3. And like after this one, like, well, they've been kind of like texting me like every week, but after like this past episode, it's like, holy shit, like, yes,
so good. I have him as like, in my mental Emmy predictions, he's got to be the winner, right, in the supporting actor category.
I mean, he like the past 4 episodes, like it's just like tape after tape, like
unbelievable.
If tapes matter. Like
the greatest, I was actually like the greatest scene in the history of the show was him and Kendall in the diner, I thought, and then walking out and Tom being like, you get effed. I've never seen you not get effed, and I've never seen Logan get effed, so I'm gonna stick with Logan. It's just like the greatest distillation of the entire show.
Yeah. But like everything about that scene was so good, like from like the way he ordered and the large glass of room temperature water, and then just like Kendall just like staring at him and just like, I'll just watch him. And that whole conversation. And like I actually, we don't have a lot of like Tom Kendall interactions, but they're always good. And also I love, after that, after he leaves Kendall on the side of the diner, the road, like, and then Tom walks back into that hotel suite, a completely different person. He doesn't say a word when he walks in, and they're still like discussing who's the next president. And like, but everything about him is different. He also like passes, Greg being hoisted. Like, these
Right, being
men at the
hoisted by his
bar.
white
Yeah,
supremacist
I know. And
Proud Boys or
it's like,
whatever.
just like in like Matthew's like entire like body and demeanor, it's just like he is like completely different after that interaction and seeing Greg and everything. And
It's incredible. He's so good. And then the machinations of the show, I thought was like, it was pretty interesting. I think I love Justin Kirk. Love seeing him and stuff. So hopefully he's in it more as the season. I doubt he's honestly in it very much. I mean, you've seen the next episode.
He's not in the next episode because that next episode is obviously, as everyone's seen, is Kendall's 40th bash.
Correct. And then the last
Ace
two,
Scars.
right?
Ace Scars is finally making his debut.
Yep. And then the last two are in Italy, presumably for the Kendall's and Shiv.
Yeah,
and
Caroline's wedding.
Caroline's
to your
wedding.
onion.
Right.
I mean, I
So-
guess he could, because like Ace Scars is in at least one of those episodes.
So maybe Justin Kirk is as well. And they're definitely setting it up for next season as well. Yeah, I'd be that was a really dark episode, I would say. And I think it's interesting that they basically shown, I mean, just to speculate, you've seen one episode ahead of me, but just to speculate, I'm like, how much more is Shiv going to take before she does come to help a flailing Kendall, who is totally, he is
like, when will she finally switch sides?
kind of, because I feel like we've seen from a story standpoint, Kendall has reached the end of his relevancy with regard to bringing down Waystar. Like if he is not all his documentation has proven failed. He bombed with the Justice Department. He's kind of just totally boxed out and irrelevant. Took a last ditch Hail Mary to Tom, didn't work. So like I feel like Kendall needs Shiv to like help unite him against Logan, and I'll just be curious to see when that actually does happen, because Shiv, obviously they've pushed her to the limit. Last week we talked about how like Logan was just totally dismissive of her deal to save the company, and then this week obviously he picks
she didn't back the wrong guy, but she didn't know how to back up her defense of her guy, and Roman did.
Yes. Roman was an expert, and Shiv was not. And Shiv, we've seen this. I mean, we talked about this a little last week too. She just loses. She doesn't always have control of the situation as well as like even Kendall and Logan, obviously. So like when she really does want something, it becomes, she can't contain it. So like
she's like a child. Like it's like, right, she pouts and
so
like,
in this one,
why isn't it going my way?
Right. And so like we saw that like last week with the negotiations with Sandy and Stewie, and then this week obviously with her candidate, trying just really aggressively get them to not pick the white
and
nationalists.
Then like she completely gave away that she had something in it for her,
and that was it. And that was why that kind of like that buried her chances. So bad for the country, but good for drama on the show, obviously. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited to watch this week's episode as well.
Yeah, I will just say that there is another development in the investigation in episode 7.
To know. Good tease. Yes. Let's end it there. Have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll talk. I'll just talk to you next week. We have a big week. After Thanksgiving, we have so many things we're going to probably see.
We will have new things hopefully to talk about.
Yes. So good tease, and we'll see you later. Bye, Joyce.
Bye.